Welcome in, everybody, as we talk Auburn football head-to-head, and Cole Cubelic, Simone Eli joining you as the Auburn Tigers fall to 0-4 in conference play after a loss at Missouri. We will look back at the game against the Tigers and look ahead to the Kentucky Wildcats as Auburn stays on the road for Week 9 of the college football season. Let's go head-to-head. Welcome in, everybody. Simone and Cole joining you. Cole, we've said it for several weeks in a row now, 4 weeks in a row, as Auburn is still searching for their first win in SEC play. This was a frustrating one. It felt as though the opportunity was there for the Auburn Tigers, Hugh Freeze, to get a win, to be in the win column, just plays away, inches away, feet away on certain plays, to have this one end on the road with the W. That is not what happened as Auburn falls 21-17. What is your just initial reaction when you think back on that game?
Just a massive letdown, because you did some things well enough to put yourself in position to win that game again. I thought there were some wrinkles in the plan that were nice. Some of the two-back stuff in the run game with misdirection, it was working. It was there. The problem with that was it felt like you were running two offenses, because you would run some of that stuff and it would be good, and then it literally felt like you pulled the other playbook out and went back to the old stuff. I thought finally you got a change on the offensive line when Brandon Joyner came in at left guard and Dylan Wade bumped out to left tackle, where you might have your 5 offensive linemen that you're going to stay with for a while. Left tackle has been an issue the last couple of weeks. And you've had a bust on the first play of the game there. The last 2 games, you cannot continue to allow those things to happen. Not Peyton Thorne's best game, not his worst game. Didn't throw an interception, but I thought some of the balls at the perimeter were a little bit late. The velocity wasn't what it needed to be. There was one time under pressure, he kind of ducks it and throws the ball up, but he did some good things with his legs. He made some good throws at big points in time in the game. One obviously could have been a big difference maker and not able to come down with it. Thought a couple receivers dropped some passes. I thought the receivers blocking on the outside wasn't great, below average. Yeah. You could add a lot more yards on the perimeter with a couple of extra blocks out there. And that just didn't take place. Defensively, I think in its totality, it was a good game. You have to have rush lane integrity in 2-minute drill late in games. Like, you cannot allow a quarterback on a bum knee to leave and go for 13 yards, whatever that was. And you got to get guys to the ground. And there were just times out in space that you didn't get ball carriers to the ground fast enough. So there's still a guy or two in the secondary that I questioned how and why they're out there. But I thought the front 7 was great. You saw flashes from Isaiah Rakes. You saw flashes from Jones. Thought Keldrick Falk had a really nice game. Dear Mousy had a really nice game. So I thought up front they played very well. They slowed down that stretch play to the point that was not what Missouri leaned on. You got the backup quarterback in who was having a rough day. All signs pointed to getting that win. Special teams letdowns. It's a disappointing one. It's one that you have to begin to wonder how this team is going to continue to emotionally and mentally bounce back, not just from losing these games, but the way they're losing these games.
Yeah, and Coach Freeze kind of alluded to that a little bit in his opening statement for his Monday press conference. He kind of just went on a little bit about just how much he hates this for Auburn, for the people that cover Auburn, and I mean, that's easy to say. I mean, when you're in a situation, but it seems sincere, and part of it is like, is this team snake bitten? There's so many opportunities that are right there in some of these close games, and you're just holding your breath a little bit on that last drive. That's kind of how I felt watching it. It was 4th down. You're like, one stop. This is it. This one play, and it's like, okay, all right. They can't get a first down here. There's no way. And then it's like, okay, like I just felt like, okay, any single second, this is going to end in favor of Auburn. And part of you has to kind of tip your hat to Brady Cook and kind of the heroics of what occurred with him leaving the game and being gone for like 2 hours and going to the hospital and going to the team building to test out his ankle and coming back. I mean, Cole, that was all kind of like, it was almost like it was just divine intervention, almost, so to speak, to have Missouri win that game with Cook at quarterback.
But on the flip side of that, when you had Drew Pine in the game, the offense was essentially stagnant, couldn't do anything. You had a chance to build on that lead at that point in time and essentially put your foot on their throat, and that didn't take place. And that's a little bit disappointing. So there are portions of the team that are young. There are portions that are inexperienced. Snake bitten. I mean, listen, I played on a football team that went through 6 centers at Auburn. we got our head coach fired that year. It wasn't a great year, but I don't believe in snake bitten because I don't believe in luck in football. I believe you make your own luck. They're not plays that could have and should have been made. You either make them or you don't. Yeah. And then you find ways to put yourself in a better position to make those plays the next time when you don't make those plays the last time. So you have to continue to find things that your players can be successful at. Like there are a lot of people that say, Jarquez Hunter, he only had 19 carries. Well, he also caught a couple of passes and he acted as a lead blocker probably 6, 8, 10 times. So I'm actually not as mad about the touches because he was doing other things in a physical manner in which you just can't put too much of a load on one guy in one game. He's not going to be effective anymore if you were to do that. So you just had opportunities. That's the main thing. You had opportunities and someone's got to start stepping up and making plays or they're not going to win any more games this year.
Yeah, and let's talk about what the road ahead looks like before we just really dial in on this Kentucky game. You think about being at Kentucky and then home against Vanderbilt. Louisiana Monroe, who's playing well, A&M, and then Alabama. I think that Coach Freeze said something about only ever having one losing record in his 30-some year career, and this is certainly not given what the personnel looks like at the beginning of the year. Nobody expected Auburn to be 2-5. Nobody expected Auburn to be one of only 2 over SEC teams right now. They're at the bottom of the standings. Where do the wins come from, and what does this look like for Saturday night against Kentucky?
So I got to go silver lining here with the rest of the schedule. That's what you're asking me to do right now. That's the picture you're asking me to paint. Okay, I think I can do that. Kentucky looked terrible last week. They did not look like a Mark Stoops coach football team. That is a team that is usually the foundation of his teams are blue collar, hard work, physical, don't give things for free. They didn't look like that. And now you're going up against a grown up defensive line and a team that usually will not back down from a fight, but their offense is almost inept right now. They're struggling to find their identity offensively. So if your defense can have another good performance, and you can manufacture a few things offensively for a group that looked uninspired last week, probably different at home. Kroger Field's an underrated place to play. Trust me, I've been there 52 times in the last 3 years.
You have been there a lot.
It is a more difficult environment than people want to believe. But there's an opportunity there to be able to get that team. I think you can get some turnovers, and I think you may be able to get some shot plays to go your way down the field. Okay, Vanderbilt. That's a team that at the line of scrimmage, Auburn should be able to be competitive with. I'm not at the point where I'm going to say Auburn's going to dominate anybody at the line of scrimmage right now, but you have an opportunity there. And you have some players like a Jalen McLeod, a Keldrick Falk, who can be athletic in space to help take away some of what they do out on the perimeter. So if Diego Pavia doesn't sort of get their option and their read plays going, they don't have much of an offense. So you have personnel that could potentially take that away. In a defense that physically you have an opportunity to be able to gain some yards. Okay. So there's that one. UL Monroe, you should beat. Now, Brian Vincent's doing an awesome job. They're 5-1. They have a big time quarterback talent that should be playing in Power 5 football. So you better show up at least to have an opportunity to win that game. If you don't play great football, you won't win that game. Texas A&M, if you can get to their quarterback, you can cause problems. Connor Wigg, Mississippi State got to him, and he wasn't comfortable, and he made some bad throws, and I think he'll give the ball away. Now, if you let him play like he did against Missouri with clean pockets and pushing the ball down the field the way that he wants to, you're going to run into problems. And if you let Mosket go in at tailback, you're going to have big problems. But you've got to find a way to neutralize that defensive line because it's probably the best in the SEC, and they can ruin your game in a hurry. But you get it at home. Last home game of the year, should be a great environment, a quarterback that you can rattle. Maybe you can find a way to do some things offensively to take the defensive line out of it, and you have a chance. You've got Alabama last on the road in Tuscaloosa. There should have to be no pregame speeches or discussions about being up for that game. They have not found their identity on offense yet. Their defense is confusable. So if you can find some misdirection and some read plays, you can get them looking left and right and potentially steal some yards. They're young in a lot of places, and they're beat up in some places. I imagine by that point in time, that probably won't be very different. And even though Coach Saban said he had problem getting his teams excited for this game, I don't feel like Auburn will be excited for this game. So there's your silver lining on the rest of the schedule. But starting with Kentucky, number one, Simone, physically, you better show up because I don't anticipate you'll see what you saw last week, 2 weeks in a row. And then if you can find a way defensively to disrupt, now they got some playmakers. Hadn't gotten Barryon Brown, Dane Key going just yet. But if you let them catch balls in the space, they'll make you pay. But if you can find a way to get to the quarterback and slow the rush game down, you can have some success defensively. You just better be ready to put up a fight when you're on offense, because that defensive line can get after it, and they've been playing football a long time. And that's the part of the game that I think Auburn has to find a way to be success's with if they're going to get a win on the road.
5 games still lie ahead, obviously beginning with this game at Kentucky. And for Auburn, there's got to be a sense of pride in what you're playing for. But when you look at just what the postseason looks like at this point, there isn't. It ends, at least if it trends this way, it ends on November 30th, and you go into the offseason, and it's a disappointing year. Is there an advantage to that, in that the fact that you are going to be playing against a lot of teams that have a pulse when it comes to the playoffs, and they might be playing a little bit tight? Do you just go out there and just let loose and enjoy football again, maybe? And there isn't as much pressure. Coach Freeze talked about feeling like he's coaching not to lose, or the margin of error is so small. And is there a take a deep breath and just go play, and the chips fall where they may? I mean,
it sounds great in theory, but what pressure have they been under to this point? That would be my rebuttal to that is.
But don't you think it's kind of reached a point where it's like, now it really isn't any?
You would like to think so, but you haven't seen a lot of guys just cut it loose up to this point. The last 2 games, whatever that's been. So I like your mindset of all these preseason goals that we have are gone. Let's hit the reset button and just go have fun and play fast and play hard and play intense. But that's one of my biggest concerns right now. Like I said, mentally and emotionally, how you continue to bounce back from not just losing games, but losing games a certain way. And on top of that, there are precedents that have been set, one in the secondary, one on the offensive line, that are allowing people to not play up to the standard. Now, the offensive line precedent has been removed, and I think that will stay removed. The one in the secondary continues to play. And I believe until that one's removed, because you're seeing it rub off on a couple other guys, and that can't continue to happen. You have to want to hit, you have to want to tackle, you have to want to play fast, and you have to want to play with intensity on that side of the football. So those are things whether you're having fun, or you're miserable, or you have a smile, or you're frowning, or you hate life, or you love life, you still have to get out there and do, no matter what.
Yep. All good points, Cole. I want to ask, before we really get into predictions, is Coach Freeze, is there a hot seat here? Is there grace given because of this ever-changing landscape of college football? Is it gonna work?
I would normally say there's no hot seat. It's year 2. He has to figure this out. The recruiting's going well. But we're also in uncharted waters right now.
Yeah.
I don't know where the mindset is of certain people in certain places, because we've got a 12-team playoff. We've got the transfer portal. We've got all these different things that NIL, collectives. There are so many more factors now that it's hard to be overly definitive with a lot of things in college football, because you can sit there and stomp your hand on the podium and say no or never, and you'll be wrong in a day or a week or 2 months, whatever that is. So while I do not think that that's feasible or reasonable, I just can't say that nothing is impossible. But I don't know how many more of these you can take, to be honest with you. It's you got to find. I do believe that if they can get one, you would have a chance to get a couple more. But you have to teach yourself that you can get that one first. Yeah. And you can say, well, they beat Alabama A&M or they beat New Mexico. When you're playing, that feels like light years ago, especially when you've lost 4 in a row the way that you have. That's not even a memory anymore. Like you haven't even banked that rep in your mind. So they have to find a way to just win a game. I don't care if they run for minus 58 yards and throw 7 interceptions, but if they win, I do think that could go a long way with how they finish this season. It's just, like we said before, a couple of guys are going to have to step up and make those plays at the right times for it to actually happen.
Yeah, as we know, in any level of sports, in any level of sports, you could be out there coaching your 4-year-old, or you could be out there, leading the Patriots. Winning helps a lot of things, and so we will see if the Auburn Tigers can get in the win column when they go to Kentucky on Saturday. It's going to be a night game, a 6:45 kickoff. The Wildcats are a 2.5-point favorite, at least as of this recording. Cole, what do you like about this one? You're very familiar with both of these teams. I know that we are hitting that week 9 exhaustion. At least I am. I'm hitting the week 9 exhaustion. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm exhausted. Are you exhausted?
I don't. My wife tells me all the time, being exhausted is just not a real thing. It's just because it is just it's just always there. So you just kind of
Honestly,
go.
though, that's just the
Um,
reality of it, especially with kids. Yeah.
I think there are opportunities within this game. I don't like going on the road. I don't like going on a road to a place where the normal mindset is probably not, we better be at full attention here or we're going to
Yeah.
get caught. Because you can kind of sleepwalk into a place like this and it can sneak up on you. Physically, this game concerns me a little bit too. The offensive line will get after you. They have a group of tight ends that'll get after you. They have a mobile quarterback that I think they're going to start leaning more on his legs, both of them actually, because 2 are going to play. They're going to play both quarterbacks, and both have the ability to run. I just think one a little bit more mobile physically than the other, and one's a little bit beat up. If you can keep the receivers in front of you, get them to the ground, and not give them the ball multiple times, I think Auburn can win this game. But as we have stated for a while, it's you got to prove it before I'll believe it. And on the road against a team that still has a lot of veterans, I know they don't have a ton to play for either at 3 and 4. It's not where they thought they were going to be with a 5-star quarterback coming in through the portal. So, but I do think that it's a mature football team. And I think they can probably go out and put a safe game plan. Now they've given some stuff away this year too. Like they've had some bad moments, but not on the road. I would definitely say 42.5, play the under. So I'll probably say like 17-14 Kentucky.
Yeah. I'm probably similar. I know I wanted to be that feel good end of this, little show that we do and say something positive, and that, Auburn was, but I think that we looked at last week and there were so many frustrating moments. I almost lost all of my hair pulling it out. I was going to look like you on this show, but thank God the game ended. So hit 0-0. But I mean, I have to agree, probably similar scoring. We'll see what it looks like. I think that right now it's kind of one of those, just like you said, win one and see what the rest of the year looks like. And if there is one that is manageable, this is probably it. 6:45 kickoff there in Lexington. Cole, where will you be on Saturday?
I will be in Nashville again. No, not Lexington this week. I've got Texas at Vanderbilt. So see if Vandy can pull off 2 miracles in one season at home.
Nice. That would be huge. No question about that. We will see as we enter the home stretch of the SEC schedule, week 9, week 10, week 9 of the season. It's going to be a big one for sure, as the really the national, playoff. What does it all look like? Kind of to come together here in the end of October. But guys, we'll see. Auburn at Kentucky, 6:45 kickoff. We'll recap that next week as we head into another week of college football. For Cole, I'm Simone. See you next week.
Brought to you by Alabama Beef Farmers and Ranchers.